Hey everyone, welcome to the last part of the separation explorations. This part we're going to be talking about two different tolerances. So this is when, for our two shapes, each shape has a different tolerance for when it's happy, a different happiness rule, so to speak. So again, you want to make sure to keep this open-ended and also think about how you can introduce like high expectations for your students in these activities. So here's an example. Let's say we've got our grid. And we want to set these happiness rules for the squares and the triangles independently now. Ask your students what do they want to do. And they're not just restricted to percentage and fractions ones. You could also use like the absolute rules that we saw previously. So for example, I might say that squares are happy when they have at least, let's say, 70% of my neighbors that are like me. And the triangles, maybe you need at least, let's say, 2 of my neighbors that are like me. So you can use different kinds of rules for your different shapes as well. Okay. And they don't have to be, again, rules about neighbors that are like me. You can also talk about rules where my neighbors are not like me and so on and so forth. You can really, really make it your own and kind of see what behavior you get. So with this, it seems like, okay, the squares really want to be near other squares and the triangles just need some other triangles around. So, maybe we can predict some sort of shapes. Maybe we'll see, squares clustering together and then triangles kind of doing some small groups of 3 maybe. So let's see. If we were to do some, let's put maybe a square here and maybe another square, and let's get a triangle going. Now these squares aren't happy because they want at least 70%. And right now they only have 50% of their neighbors that are like them, so let's give them another little square buddy that gets them 2/3. Still not 70%, so they need yet another one. Okay. 4 squares. Now they are happy. The triangle's not happy though. It needs 2 other triangles around. So we need a triangle there and maybe a triangle there. But now, now this square isn't happy. So it needs more squares. So maybe we'll give it some other square neighbors. And now I think we're getting much better because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the 8. 5 over 8. No, he's not happy. Okay, so we need to put another square there and maybe give them a triangle up there. And you can keep playing with it. I think you need to fill this out. I think the squares are really going to be pretty greedy about wanting neighbors like them. So these will be pretty hard to satisfy, I think. But, play around with it and see what kind of behavior you get. And again, having high expectations, maybe what you can do is you can give your students a pattern like this, and you can ask what happiness rules will make these shapes happy. Okay, well, let's think about it. We've got these squares that are kind of clustered in the middle, and then we've got these triangles on the outside. Okay, so let's see. How do we even start? Well, let's just guess and check. That's usually a pretty good method for these things. So let's say squares need at least 50% to be happy. 50% of their neighbors to be like them. So like this square definitely counts. All its neighbors are squares. This square, yeah, it has these 5 versus these 3. That's over half, so that's good. This square here, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 square buddies out of, 4, 5, 6, 7 total neighbors, so that's okay. That counts. Oh, but this guy here, that's an issue because he's got 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Oh, no, that's 50% of his neighbors, so he's happy. So actually, this looks like it works out. I wasn't sure it was going to. And then you can guess and check for the triangles. Well, the triangle one, if we put 50% here, well, that's going to be maybe a problem because, this triangle here, for example, he's got 1, 2, 3 squares and only 2 triangle neighbors. So 50% doesn't work. So play around with it and see, you can give your students a pattern as well and ask them what rules make these shapes happy. Yeah. And keeping those high expectations and making sure it's open-ended. And you can have students challenging each other. There's many different ways to do this. And it kind of just all depends on, what sparks people's interest, what really draws you.